Hello and welcome once again to the video. In this one I shall be doing another look at what is in the news. Specifically Formula One news. The Formula One World Championship. Grand Prix Motor Racing World Championship. Of course, last week we had the big shock announcement of Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari in 2025. So there's not so much exciting news this week. Plus I'm recording it a few days before release. So there's every chance that something incredibly exciting has happened since I recorded it, which is what happened last week. You might recall. I recorded last week's video on, I think, Wednesday maybe, and then the following day Lewis Hamilton announced his move to Ferrari, so I had to scrap my original video. I will still be doing my non-F1 videos, of course, but in the build-up to the Formula One season, I think it's good to focus on the news. It's a bit of a wobble with the camera there a little bit, sorry about that. So, what is in the news this week? First up, I would say Andretti Racing. Michael Andretti, who raced in Formula One in 1993 for part of the season, most of the season, alongside Ayrton Senna, but he had such an McLaren, but he had such an unsuccessful season in some people's eyes. I think he still picked up some podiums, but being an IndyCar champion and winner of tens of races in America, I think it was assumed that he would sort of almost match Senna. Difficult task coming into Formula One, different category, and being Senna's teammate in Senna's prime. I don't know how on earth Andretti was supposed to properly compete with him. Anyway, he was replaced, wasn't he, for the last few races, I believe, in 93 by Mika Hakkinen, was it? Apologies if I've got that wrong, if Andretti saw out the whole season, but I thought Hakkinen did the last few races. Anyway, Michael Andretti is the son of Mario Andretti, the 1978 world champion, Formula One world champion, in his Lotus. Lotus 78, actually, I think it was called, wasn't it? Andretti Racing trying to get into Formula One for either 2025 or 2026. They were initially accepted by the FIA. Legally, FIA would have been looking at all the legal parameters. Everything was fine. But then it comes down to money, of course, doesn't it? And that's where Formula One management step in. They're the people that actually run the sport, as opposed to the FIA that do the rules and regulations of the sport. The FIA police the sport, and Formula One management run the sport. Formula One management are actually based only about 20 miles from where I live. I didn't realise that until I actually saw their offices last year. Anyway, completely by chance. The teams are part of Formula One management. They get a vote, you have the Concord Agreement, all that sort of thing. And so the teams are involved. And the teams, most of them, I think, were not in favour of there being an 11th team because of splitting the money, mainly. Now, Formula One management, who have turned down Andretti Racing's application, are saying that part of the reason is because of the engine manufacturer. I should cover up my nib because it keeps going dry. General Motors are coming in potentially, but not until 2028. So Andretti cannot use their engines until 2028. So Andretti would have to use a current engine supplier, be a customer of a current engine supplier, and Formula One management didn't want that. So it might be that Andretti puts in another application for 2028. Who knows? Watch this space. But it's a real shame. I'd love to have an 11th team. I'd love it to have the Andretti name as well. Be fantastic. But no. We should have 26 cars like we used to have. Not 20. It's too small. Also in the news, you have F1 Academy, isn't it? It's the all-female category. Now, they are apparently going to be getting super license points. For the top 5 in the 2024 championship, they will receive FIA super license points. Receive FIA super license points. Now, I'm in favour of that. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. I'm not entirely certain though whether the F1 Academy should exist anyway. It's there's a big pro and there's a big con. The big pro is that it gives female drivers who wouldn't be able to get into Formula One or maybe even Formula 2 the chance to race in a proper FIA category. So yes, that's good. But unfortunately, it also sidelines female drivers and basically says, there you go, we're going to give you your own series so that you don't have anything to do with Formula One. Like the kiddies table sort of thing, you know. And that's really unfortunate because there would be some drivers, for some women drivers, female drivers, that potentially could get into Formula One. I'm thinking Danica Patrick before she retired. I think she's retired anyway, but she's not young anymore anyway. Danica Patrick, of course you've got Jamie Chadwick. I wonder what she would be like in a Formula One car. But of course, by far and away, the majority of female drivers would not be able to get into Formula One. Mainly to do with the fitness thing. It's a very tough, the strength basically, neck muscles, all that sort of thing. So they created the F1 Academy, and of course there was a W Series before that, wasn't it? But I don't know, there are female drivers that don't like the fact that there is an F1 Academy. They would prefer just to be given the opportunity to race with men. And if they're not good enough, fair enough. Or not strong enough, fair enough, so be it. It's really tricky because this way at least they get the chance to race in a proper serious championship. But at the same time, is it serious? Because it's only women. So it's like a very much so a B category. And it's like it's saying, this is where you are, this is your ultimate, you can't go any higher. That's what it feels like a little bit. I mean, for instance, if someone wins the F1 Academy, are they going to be given a shout at Formula One? Probably not, because teams will think, well, they haven't tested themselves against F2 drivers, so they can't go into Formula One. So I tend to think, it's really tricky, but I tend to think there shouldn't be female-owned categories. But if I was a female driver, I may well want this sort of thing because that way you can you can at least race. Now, of course, the top 5 in the 2024 champs receive super license points. Now, that would, I suppose, is potentially going towards an F1 drive. But what F1 team is going to give a female driver a drive if they haven't been tested against male drivers in F2? It's a really tough situation. But anyway, I still think this is good. This is a positive thing, though. What else is in the news? Of course, we've got car launches at the moment. I think we've had Haas. That's right. Got my pen is. Hopefully this is still in focus. We've had car launches, of course. We've had Haas, which apparently the car is very similar to last year's car, and the livery almost looks identical. And we've had Williams and Sauber. At the time of recording, we have not yet had Alpine and AlphaTauri, or whatever AlphaTauri are known as now. I forget what they're known as this year. I forget what it is. It's not something that trips off the tongue anyway. But yeah, Haas is fairly. Basically, the car looked exactly the same. The livery, to me, looks pretty much identical. And apparently the car is very similar, which you might expect anyway. Sauber and Williams, I like their livery, particularly Sauber. Of course, will it be the same livery that they turn up to Bahrain using? Who knows? But the green and black of Sauber, Kick Sauber as it's known this year, is really nice. I love it. And the car looks just as nice as it did last year. Alfa Romeo was a beautiful car. It's probably my favourite looking car from last year. Really nice. And now it's got really nice livery. Well, it had nice livery last year, of course. The Alfa Romeo last year looked really nice. The Alfa Romeo being Sauber, basically. But Alfa Romeo are no longer involved in Sauber. So it's gone back to being Sauber again before it becomes Audi in 2026. This is the same team since 1993, Sauber, but they keep sort of being almost taken over by car manufacturers. So the name completely changes for a few years until that car manufacturer leaves, and then they go back to being Sauber in the intervening years. So it's been Sauber, BMW, Sauber, Alfa Romeo, Sauber, then Audi in 2026. The Williams, it's blue. They were making a big thing of how different the livery was, but to me it looks exactly the same as last year. Not exactly the same, but very, very close. But the Sauber looks lovely. Fantastic looking car. I'm going to put it there. Fantastic looking car. The launches are always quite funny, I think, just how over the top they are. Too showy, too flashy, especially for a car at the back of the field. Sauber's one was like what you might expect from, say, Red Bull. In fact, Red Bulls are normally quite low-key, I suppose, because they are the best at the moment. They don't need to show off. Teams lower down have to do all this whiz-bang, showy stuff. Look at us, aren't we great? We're changing the world. In fact, in Sauber's little sketch at the beginning of their launch, it talks about how do you change the world from changing within and then showing it to the world. Well, showing it to the back of the grid, anyway. I really hope so. It's Sauber further up, but then again, I hope every team is further up. They can't all be in the top 3. But I want Haas, Sauber, Williams and Sauber all to do well. With Günther Steiner gone, the motivation for Haas to do well for me is not so high. I wanted Günther Steiner to have some success. So that's gone now. But never mind. Now I think Alpine, is it Alpine are being released on the 7th and AlphaTauri are being released on the 9th, I think. Yeah, so by the time that this video is released, they would have had their car launches. I'm just trying to think what else there is. Oh, of course we do have, I'm not going to comment on it because we don't know much about it really at the moment, but there is a little bit of hoo-ha, a little bit of an investigation over something that Christian Horner is supposed to have, some kind of naughty behaviour, whether it's verbal or physical or I don't know, no one has said, but some kind of inappropriate something basically. The unfortunate thing is that when it's not detailed like that, people will jump to conclusions. So I think that's about it. Just sort of messing about here a little bit. Right, that's the end of the news. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, please do so. If you'd like to like the video, there's even a thanks button below the video for tips if you're a regular viewer. That's great. About 70% of the people that view my channel do subscribe. That's great. I'm pleased with that percentage. But if you are one of the 30%, then please consider subscribing, because that really does help me out. Anyway, thank you once again for watching and for listening, and I will see you on the next video, whatever that may be about. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.